What's up, everybody? I know that I am late to cover this, like I typically am with most things that happen. But as a lot of you guys probably already know, Naughty Dog and Sony are developing a remake of the 2013 video game The Last of Us. Um, as well as developers are a bit disappointed at the news that Sony will be focusing on more large blockbuster type of titles this generation and less smaller things. Not to say that those games are going away, but expect to see more Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon, The Last of Us, uh, Bloodborne, and less Gravity Rush, Hollow Knight, Unravel, stuff like that. Which, well, Unravel is EA, so less Little Nightmares. Well, that's Bondi. I don't know, man. It's hard to say. But I want to go ahead and give my perspective on this whole The Last of Us remake situation, given the current state of PlayStation games, because I've been a PlayStation loyal my entire life. I got skin in the game, you could say. So I want to first address that there have been people defending this decision by Naughty Dog because, well, it's been 8 years since The Last of Us came out, and there were 6 years between, like, let's see who we have here. It was 6 years in between Resident Evil and the remake that they got on GameCube, and that was a really big upgrade. So, who's to say that there couldn't be, something to justify the remake in this situation? I want to talk about that briefly. Um, Resident Evil came out in 1996, 2 years after the PS1 launched. It didn't look very good because it was the first attempt that Capcom had made at a game like that. Um, Resident Evil 2 and 3 both look better. A lot of the games that came out later in the PS1's life look better. I think the Spider-Man games look pretty bad. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, um, uh, Silent Hill, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. There's a lot of games, Ape Escape, that came out on the PS1 after Resident Evil that look better because the technology got easier to work with. The N64, Sega, Saturn, PS1 era video games was rough because these developers that were used to making 2D games were, working with a Z axis for the first time. And so, of course, as the technology got older, it got better, and developers got better at using it. Now, let's talk about the fact that Resident Evil 1 got a remake on the GameCube. Resident Evil 1 came out on the PS1, and Resident Evil 4 came out on the GameCube. Now, if you look up gameplay of Resident Evil 4, you're probably going to see HD stuff. Um, so you're going to want to try to find the original version of the game on GameCube or PS2. But there's a pretty big leap in what console hardware was capable of in that time. Um, and Resident Evil remakes have been kind of a strange thing lately because one got a remake 6 years later, but then two and three both took 21 years to get their remakes, and they kind of turned it into a Resident Evil 4 style. So it's kind of like, what do you do when it comes to remake Resident Evil 4, which they were doing, but apparently they're overhauling the development of it, which is interesting to me because that could mean something different, something unique, which is what I think that a remake of that game would need. Because honestly, I don't think it needs a remake. It's got all these HD remasters and re-releases and stuff like that. But that's not the point. The point is the hardware had significantly been increased. Its horsepower rather had been increased. The voice acting needed to be redone because the voice acting in the Resident Evil game, while it may be classic and charming now, was really bad back then. Especially considering the game, by and large, didn't have a lot of voice acting. They also got rid of like that weird full motion video live action stuff that was in there that needed to go. the original game was also very bad at communicating where you were and what you needed to do. The original game had tank controls, which were really disorienting for a lot of people. Stuff like that. There were the quality of life changes that needed to be made to that game to make it more playable, and the hardware was able to operate a better looking and smoother running game. Right now, let's just look at Spider-Man games from every PlayStation generation. Uh, Spider-Man Mysterio's Menace on PS1 definitely looks very PS1. But then if you look at the PS2, you have Ultimate Spider-Man, or Spider Friend or Foe. Spider-Man 2 or 3, even though those games don't look particularly good. Uh, Pretty huge gap, right? Like, very noticeable upgrade. PS3, Web of Shadows, Shattered Dimensions, Edge of Time. Those games look really good, even though Web of Shadows had a very troubled production. But that game still came out looking really, really good. PS4, I mean, Marvel Spider Man, another huge, very noticeable gap. But Miles Morales, apart from being 4K and having ray tracing and running at 60 frames, pretty much looks the same. It's more attractive, but not by much. So what I wanna point out here is that The Last of Us came out at the tail end of the PS3's life cycle in 2013, months before the PS4 released. And then the very next year, it got a remaster for the PS4. It looked really good on PS3, but it looked even better on PS4, right? And so obviously, on the surface, it would seem like, well, that means it can look even better on PS5, right? The best it could look is as good as The Last of Us 2 looks. Which honestly, The Last of Us 2 isn't that impressive as far as PS4 games go. I think Ghost of Tsushima, uh, Horizon Zero Dawn, and God of War all look better. So, graphical fidelity reasons, one generation gap is not enough to necessitate a remake. At least not in the times that we live in. If let's see, if the original God of War trilogy got a remake for the PS4, the PS5, that would be totally fine because those games are like what 18 years old now, and 3 console generations have gone by since the first game came out. So it would be worth the effort to actually upgrade that game. And another thing I want to mention is Resident Evil is a kind of a bad example because Resident Evil gave birth to a whole new genre of video games. Nobody was talking about survival horror before then, but people love it now. It's one of the most recognizable video game franchises of the last 25 years, especially now that it is 25 years old. And it did something for video games as a whole that The Last of Us didn't really do. Well, I mean, it helped give birth to the playable movies thing that people say about PlayStation games all the time, so that's cool, I guess. And another thing that I want to address is that if you have a PS3, 4, or 5, you can play this game. And if you have a 4 or a 5, you can play it for absolutely free because it was free on PlayStation Plus for PS4 a while ago. So if you snatched it up then, you have it forever. PS5, if you have PlayStation Plus, it's one of the games that they just give you for free, as well as like God of War, Bloodborne, I think, and some other games. You have these games. You have the game, most likely, if you have a PlayStation. This game is already plenty accessible. Why are they remaking it? And here's one of my other problems with it. Naughty Dog themselves are doing the remake, not Bluepoint. If you don't know who Bluepoint are, they did the Nathan Drake collection for PS4. They did the remake for Shadow of the Colossus on PS4, and they did the remake for uh what is it? They did the remake for Demon Souls on PS5. And they're in talks to be doing a remake of uh, Metal Gear Solid for the PS5 as well. I don't know if it would be exclusive. That all depends on Konami. But apparently, yeah, apparently Konami and Kojima shook hands and made up. So if that's the case, then I need them to release the Kojima cut of Metal Gear Solid 5. Anyway, um, Bluepoint has been doing remakes and remasters for PlayStation for quite some time. But Naughty Dog themselves, who worked with Bluepoint to do Uncharted, are deciding that they should just make this remake on their own. No Last of Us 3, even though I probably wouldn't play that. No Uncharted 5 or Lost Legacy 2 or anything like that. No game about Sam. uh, no Jack and Daxter, you know? Nothing. They think that it's more worth their time and effort to remake The Last of Us. Sure, they might be working on two things. I doubt it, though. I highly doubt it. 3 years in between The Last of Us and Uncharted 3, Uncharted 4. Then Uncharted Lost Legacy came out the next year. And then 4 years later, no, 3.5 years later, The Last of Us 2, Part 2 came out. So even if they are working on two things, we're not going to find out about the other one for a while. Um, Sony, I think, are backing the wrong horse in this situation. There are a lot of PlayStation games that are pretty much dead in the water that kind of need the spotlight again. You know, Twisted Metal, Sly Cooper, Infamous, Killzone, Resistance, Siphon Filter. But no, no, none of those games get a revival on new hardware. Could you imagine how good Twisted Metal could look now? How good Siphon Filter could look now? How good Resistance or Killzone could look now? But no, no, Sony has no interest. Let's let's reject the Days Gone sequel. I didn't play Days Gone personally, but I know that a lot of people that did play it really enjoyed it. Let's reject that and greenlight this remake of a game that's only 8 years old and is already available on 60% of all PlayStations. Well, like it's so ridiculous to me. It's such a widely accessible video game already. Why remake it? It's like remaking GTA 5. It's like you don't need to. Actually, you know what? No. That's a good example. They're both the same age. And they're both, well, GTA 5 will be playable on as many console generations. um but it's they're I mean both those games are widely successful again and they're the same age. So why not remake GTA 5? Oh, is it because online is still super popular and people are still playing it? Well, what does that mean? It's old enough. Resident Evil was only 6 years old when they got a remake. Why not? You know, are you seeing that it's not always about how old the game is to warrant it getting a remake? I just don't see the point. Like, if you want to. Here's the thing that really butters my egg rolls about this. They're remaking The Last of Us, but Uncharted only got remasters. This game already has a remaster. Why is it not getting if they go and they remake the Uncharted quadrilogy? Because I mean, Uncharted 4 is coming up on being as old as Resident Evil was when it got remade. So why not? Why fucking not? But if they if they were to remake all the Uncharted games, maybe I'd feel better about this. But they're not. And Sony has many other series. I was gonna do a whole video about 10 PlayStation franchises that need to be revived on the PS5. They have all these games, all these IPs just sitting in a locker collecting dust. And it's really disappointing because, you know, PlayStation has always been seen as the console that's the most for the people. And right now, that's Xbox. And it hurts me. But Xbox is more for the people right now than PlayStation is with these recent decisions. But that's my stance on the whole Last of Us remake. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Did I make you think of some things that you hadn't thought of before? Did I change your mind? Which is not always my intention, but it happens sometimes. Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below and educate me. As always, if you want more videos from me, go ahead and click somewhere on the screen. Subscribe if you're new. Share this video around with your friends. Buy my shirts. Join the membership. Do whatever you feel like you need to do to help the channel grow a little bit and help me feed myself. And I'll see you very soon.